The red warning lights painted everything in crimson as Hana stood in the command center, watching the numbers climb on her screen. The solar flare was bigger than anyone had predicted, much bigger. In 47 minutes, a wall of radiation would hit New Horizon Colony, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. "Ma'am, the last shuttle just left for the underground shelters," Minji said, her voice tight with stress. The chief engineer had been awake for 30 hours straight, trying to find a solution that didn't exist. "But the shelters won't hold against this. Not with this magnitude," Hana nodded slowly. She had known that for hours. The shelters would buy them time, maybe an extra hour before the radiation cooked through the barriers. 3,000 colonists huddled underground praying for a miracle that wouldn't come. Earth was 14 light-years away. The nearest human ship was months out. They were alone. "Send the final report to Earth," Hana said quietly. "Tell them we tried. Tell them the colony dies with honor." Tae-young, the security officer, stood by the window staring up at the angry sun. He was young, barely 25, and this was his first posting. "I thought we'd have more time," he said. "I thought we'd build something that mattered." "We did matter," Hana replied. "For 3 years, we turned dead rock into farmland. We proved humans could live here. That matters." The countdown timer hit 45 minutes. Then every alarm in the command center went silent at once. The screens flickered. Minji's hands flew across her console, confusion spreading across her face. "Ma'am, something's here. A ship just dropped out of FTL right above us." "Human?" Tae-young asked, hope creeping into his voice. "No," Minji whispered. "It's alien. And it's massive." Hana's breath caught. In 3 years on New Horizon, they'd never seen another species. Earth's first contact had happened 20 years ago. But out here in the frontier, humans were still alone. Until now, the communication system crackled to life. The voice that came through was strange, musical, with odd pauses between words, but the translator AI worked, turning those sounds into something they could understand. "Human colony. This is Valorn vessel Wandering Dawn. We detect the stellar event approaching your position. You cannot survive this." Hana grabbed the microphone. "Valorn ship, this is Colony Director Hana. We know. We've evacuated to shelters, but they won't hold. We're requesting you mark our position and report our fate to Earth authorities." Silence stretched for long seconds. Then the voice returned, and it sounded sad. "We have technology that may help. A shield system. It has never been tested on a planetary scale. It may fail. It will certainly damage our ship. But we must try." Minji looked at Hana with wide eyes. "They're going to try to save us? Why?" "They don't even know us." Hana keyed the microphone again. "Valorn ship, why would you risk your vessel for us? You owe us nothing." "We owe life itself the attempt," the voice replied. "I am Captain Daewon. My crew and I will do what we can. Move your people to the deepest shelters. If we fail, the extra shielding may give you a few more minutes." The alien ship moved into position between the colony and the sun. Through the windows, Hana could see it now, a graceful vessel that looked like a silver leaf. Its surface covered in patterns that might have been decoration or might have been something functional. It was beautiful. 30 minutes, Minji said softly. The colony held its breath. Down in the shelters, 3,000 people sat in the dark, not knowing that aliens hung in the sky above them, preparing to gamble everything. Hana watched her screens as the Valorn ship began to glow. Energy readings spiked so high that her instruments couldn't measure them properly. "They're creating some kind of field," Minji reported. "It's expanding, growing. It's going to cover the entire colony." 20 minutes. The shield snapped into place like a soap bubble suddenly solidifying. It shimmered in the air above them, a dome of impossible size covering 20 square miles of settlement. Through the transparent energy field, Hana could see the Valorn ship straining, its surface now glowing white-hot in places. 10 minutes. "The flare is visible now." Tae-young pointed at the sky. A wave of fire was rolling off the sun's surface, moving toward them at a fraction of the speed of light. It was the most terrifying thing Hana had ever seen, and the most beautiful. The wave hit the shield. The command center's windows automatically darkened to save their eyes, but even through the protection, the light was incredible. The shield flashed like a star had been born right above their heads. Hana felt the building shake. Alarms screamed. Power fluctuated and held. For 3 minutes, the solar flare poured its rage against the Valorn shield. Energy that should have sterilized the colony broke like an ocean wave against an impossible wall. The shield held. The colony beneath it survived second by second. Then, as suddenly as it began, the flare passed. The shield collapsed. The Valorn ship tumbled in orbit, clearly damaged, pieces of its hull torn away, systems failing. "Get me a line to them," Hana shouted. Static answered at first. Then weakly, Captain Day One's voice returned. "Human colony. Do you survive?" "We survive. You saved us. All of us." Hana felt tears running down her face. "What do you need? How can we help you?" "Our ship requires repairs. We need rare metals, platinum, titanium, magnetic coils if you have them. But we know you are a new colony. We ask for what you can spare, nothing more." Minji was already pulling up inventory. "Ma'am, if we give them what they need, we'll set our own development back by a year. Maybe more. We need those materials for the fusion plant expansion." Hana didn't hesitate. "Give them everything they need. Strip it from our own systems if you have to. They saved 3,000 lives. They can have anything we own." Over the next 3 days, the colonists worked alongside the Valorn crew. The aliens were tall with skin that shifted colors like oil on water, and they moved with an odd grace. Taeyang found himself working next to one of them, a young Valorn named Sunho, who was apparently the captain's son. "Your people are generous," Sunho said, watching humans strip valuable components from their own half-built structures. "You give us everything. You gave us our lives," Taeyang replied. "Everything else is just things." When the Wandering Dawn was finally ready to leave, Captain Daewon met with Hana one last time. The alien's colors were muted, which she had learned meant he was feeling emotional. "We asked for nothing," Daewon said. "Yet you gave everything. This kindness will not be forgotten by the Valorn." Hana took his strange four-fingered hand in both of hers. "And humanity never forgets those who save us when we're helpless. If you ever need us, Captain, we will come, no matter how long it takes. No matter how far we have to travel. That's a promise." The Valorn ship lifted into the sky, repaired and ready to continue its journey. The colonists stood together and watched it go, the alien vessel that had given them tomorrow. In the years that followed, they would build a statue of Captain Daewon in the colony's central square. They would name their largest city after him. They would tell the story to their children, and those children would tell their children. And every human who heard the tale understood one thing with absolute certainty. Debts like this were never forgotten, never ignored, and someday somehow humanity would repay what the Valorn had given them. Someday. The Kragath fleet advanced like a wall of steel and fury. 500 warships, each one built for one purpose, conquest. Warlord Kethvar stood on his command bridge, watching the human defensive line on his displays. They hadn't moved. 300 ships, significantly outgunned, sitting in space like they had any chance of survival. "They must be insane," Kethvar's tactical officer said. "We have them outnumbered. Our weapons are more powerful. They should be running. Then we'll teach them what happens to fools who stand against the Kragath," Kethvar replied. "Open fire when we reach optimal range. Target their largest ships first. Break their command structure." On the Remembrance, alarms began sounding as the Kragath entered weapons range. Captain Jae-sung checked his systems one last time. Everything was ready. The crew was at battle stations. All over the ship, humans prepared to fight for people most of them had never met. "Admiral," Jae-sung said to Bo-Ra, "the Kragath are powering weapons. 45 seconds to firing range." Bo-Ra stood from her command chair, addressing not just the Remembrance but every ship in the fleet via open channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Bo-Ra. In a few seconds, the Kragath will open fire. They think we'll break. They think we'll run. They don't understand that we made a promise 80 years ago. Humanity protects its friends. Today we prove that means something. All ships weapons free. Show them what we're made of." The Kragath fired first. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles streaked across space, targeting the human front line. 3 ships took direct hits, their shields flaring and failing. But the humans didn't break formation. They returned fire. The battle began in earnest. In the asteroid field on the outer edge of the system, Commander Da-un sat in the cockpit of her fighter, waiting. Around her, 60 other fighter craft and 20 warships floated silently, powered down, hidden among the rocks. This was Ji-won's plan, the surprise element. "The secondary fleet, stay dark," Da-un whispered to her squadron. "Not yet. Wait for the signal." On the main battle line, the fighting was brutal. The Kragath had superior firepower, but the humans fought with desperate determination. When human ships took damage, They didn't retreat. They moved forward, getting closer, making every shot count. Captain Wanshik commanded the destroyer Hana's Promise, named after the colony director who'd made the original promise. His ship was taking heavy fire, shields at 20% and dropping. "Damage report," he called out. "Port weapons offline. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 5. Shield generators failing." Wanshik looked at his tactical display. A Kragath battle cruiser was moving to flank the Valorn position. If it got through, it could destroy 3 Valorn ships before anyone could stop it. He made his decision. All power to engines. Emergency speed. Plot intercept course with that battle cruiser. His first officer stared at him. "Sir, that's a collision course. We won't survive." "I know," Wanshik said calmly. He opened a channel to his crew. "This is the captain. We're going to stop that battle cruiser. I'm giving anyone who wants to evacuate 30 seconds to reach the escape pods. But I'm staying with my ship. She's going to die saving lives today, just like the officer she's named after would have wanted." Not a single crew member left their post. The Hana's Promise accelerated to ramming speed, engines screaming. The Kragath battlecruiser tried to evade, but destroyers are fast and maneuverable. Wanshik guided his ship with perfect precision, straight into the battlecruiser's engineering section. The explosion lit up space like a second sun. Both ships were destroyed instantly. But the 3 Valorn ships behind them survived. Admiral Bora watched it happen, her jaw tight. "Honor Wanshik's sacrifice. All ships press the attack. Make them pay for every meter." The Kragath were beginning to realize something was wrong. They were winning. They had more ships, more firepower. But the humans weren't behaving like an enemy that was losing. Every time a human ship was destroyed, the others fought harder. When damaged human vessels should have retreated, they instead positioned themselves as shields for the Valorn. "What's wrong with them?" Kethvar demanded. "They're dying for aliens. No species fights like this." G1, monitoring the battle from the tactical command center, watched her screens carefully. The Kragath had committed their full force to the main engagement. Their formation was tight, focused. Perfect. She sent the signal. In the asteroid field, Dawn's console lit up. "That's it. All ships power up. Launch, launch, launch." The hidden fleet burst from cover. 60 fighters and 20 warships, coming from behind the Kragath formation. The Kragath had never expected a second wave. They'd seen all human ships on their scopes, or so they thought. These vessels had been hiding for days, waiting for exactly this moment. Dayun led her fighter squadron straight at the Kragath command ship. "Target their communication arrays." "Blind them!" The surprise attack caused chaos in the Kragath ranks. Ships broke formation, trying to respond to the threat from behind. The tight, coordinated assault became confused and fragmented. Admiral Bora saw the opening and seized it. "All ships, full offensive." "Break their line." The Remembrance surged forward, its heavy weapons tearing into a Kragath dreadnought. All along the human line, ships pushed forward, turning the defensive stand into an aggressive assault. The Kragath formation began to collapse. Kethvar screamed orders, trying to restore coordination, but his communication systems were under attack from Dayun's fighters. Half his fleet couldn't hear his commands. The other half was receiving conflicting orders from sub-commanders who were panicking. Captain Jae-sung stood on the bridge of the Remembrance, watching the tactical display shift in their favor. "Admiral, their command ship is trying to fall back. They're repositioning behind their heavy ships." "Not acceptable," Bora said. "Helm intercept course. Full power to forward shields. We're going after their warlord. Ma'am, we'll be surrounded. They'll concentrate fire on us." "Good. While they're shooting at us, they're not shooting at the Valorn. That's the whole point." The Remembrance plowed into the center of the Kragath formation, drawing fire from every direction. Shields failed. Hull plating burned away. Deck by deck, the flagship took incredible damage. But it kept moving, kept firing, kept driving toward the Kragath command ship. On the Valorn ships, families watched in horror and awe. The humans were dying for them. Not just dying, sacrificing themselves deliberately, turning their bodies and ships into shields. Sunho couldn't look away from his view screen. "They're going to destroy themselves to save us. Should we run?" his first officer asked. "While the humans are keeping the Kragath busy?" "No," Sunho said firmly. "They fight for us. The least we can do is witness their courage." The Remembrance finally reached the Kragath command ship. Admiral Bora's bridge was a wreck, Fires burning, half the crew dead or wounded, systems failing across the ship. She pulled herself to the engineering console and began overriding safety protocols. "Admiral, what are you doing?" Jae-sung asked. "Ending this." Bora's fingers flew across the controls. "Reactor overload. Set for 30-second timer. Ship-wide order. All hands abandon ship. Now." "Admiral, that's an order, Captain." "Get our people off this ship!" Jae-sung saluted, even though his arm was broken. "It's been an honor, Admiral. Save it. You're not dying today. You're going to make sure everyone knows why we did this. Now go!" The crew evacuated in a desperate rush. Escape pods launched in every direction. Bora stayed at her station, guiding the Remembrance on its final course. She pointed it directly at the Kragath command ship and locked the controls. 20 seconds. The Kragath realized too late what was happening. They tried to destroy the Remembrance to break its trajectory, but the ship was already too close. 10 seconds. Bora thought about her grandmother, who'd lived because a Valorn captain made a choice. She thought about all the humans who'd died today, keeping a promise. She thought it was worth it. 0. The reactor overload created an explosion that consumed both ships entirely. The Kragath command vessel and the pride of the human fleet ceased to exist in the same instant. The Kragath fleet, seeing their warlord destroyed, seeing a third of their ships damaged or destroyed, seeing an enemy that would literally die rather than break their word, made a choice. They ran. 500 ships had entered this battle. Less than 300 limped away. Not a single Valorn ship had been destroyed. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors, as medical teams worked frantically to save the wounded, the galaxy processed what had happened. Humanity had faced an enemy with superior numbers and firepower. They'd lost 47 ships. Thousands were dead. Their admiral had sacrificed herself and they'd won, because some promises matter more than survival. The Galactic Coalition Council chamber fell silent when Ambassador Kyung-mi stood to speak. Representatives from 40 species watched the human with expressions ranging from curiosity to concern. The coalition had existed for 3,000 years, maintaining peace through careful neutrality. They didn't get involved in conflicts between individual species. They certainly didn't approve of military mobilization over what they considered minor piracy. "The human delegation has requested this emergency session," the council speaker announced. "Ambassador Kyung-mi, please explain why your species is preparing for war." Kyung-mi walked to the center of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. She was young for an ambassador at 38, but she'd been chosen specifically because she understood what was happening. She'd been born on New Horizon, 3 generations after the rescue, but the story was part of her identity. 80 years ago, a Valorn ship saved 3,000 human colonists from certain death, she began. Captain Daewon and his crew risked everything for people they'd never met. They asked for nothing in return. We gave them what little we had to repair their ship and they departed. The Valorn probably thought that was the end of the story. A Kragath representative interrupted, his voice harsh and metallic through his translator. "Ancient history. The Valorn are being taught a lesson about weakness. They refused to pay tribute when we expanded into their space. Actions have consequences. You're attacking a peaceful species for refusing to be extorted," Kyung-mi said flatly. "You're pirates with delusions of empire." The Kragath representative rose, his massive form intimidating. "Watch your tongue, human. Your species is small, new. You have no right to speak to us this way." "I'm just getting started," Kyung-mi replied. "The Valorn saved us when they had no obligation. They showed us mercy when we were helpless. Now you ask why we mobilize our fleets, why we prepare for war, because that's what it means to be human. We remember. We honor our debts, and we protect those who protected us." The council speaker tried to restore order. "Ambassador, the coalition's position has always been non-intervention in disputes between member species. The Valorn are not even coalition members. They're nomads. What you're proposing could destabilize the entire region." "Then the region deserves to be destabilized," Kyung-mi said. "If the coalition won't protect peaceful species from predators, then what's the point of this council? You sit here in your comfortable stations talking about neutrality and stability, while people die." Admiral Bora watched the council session on a screen in her flagship's ready room. The Remembrance was the largest ship in the human fleet, built just 15 years ago with the latest technology. Around her 217 other human vessels were gathering everything from military cruisers to converted colony ships bristling with newly installed weapons. The ambassador is making enemies, her first officer observed. Good, Bo-Ra replied. We're not here to make friends. We're here to keep a promise. Captain Jae-sung entered the ready room, saluting crisply. He was the captain of the Remembrance, answering to Bo-Ra as fleet commander. Admiral, we're receiving volunteers from every human world. Ships we didn't even know existed are showing up. Civilian vessels, mining haulers, even a few pleasure yachts with weapons bolted on. Bo-Ra smiled. That sounds like us. How many ships total now? Over 300 if we count the civilian volunteers. It's the largest human fleet ever assembled. It won't be enough if the Kragath bring their full military, Bo-Ra said. Intelligence estimates they have at least 500 war-capable ships in this sector. But we're not trying to conquer them. We're just trying to protect the Valorn long enough to get them to safety. Where will they go? The Valorn don't have a homeworld anymore. Then we'll give them one. We have 47 colonies. We can spare room for a few thousand refugees. Meanwhile, in the outer reaches, Sunho stood on the bridge of the distant shore, watching human ships arrive via FTL. More and more of them, dropping into normal space in flashes of blue-white light. When the first ship had appeared, he'd thought it might be a scout. By the 10th ship, he realized this was a fleet. By the 100th, he understood that humanity had mobilized its entire military for them. They came, his first officer whispered. They actually came. The communication system activated and a human face appeared. A woman with steel-gray hair and commander insignia. Valorn vessels, this is Admiral Bo-Ra of the Human United Fleet. We received your message. We're here to help. Please transmit your current positions and status. Sunho's hands shook as he opened the channel. Admiral Bo-Ra, this is Captain Sunho of the Valorn Fleet. We didn't think anyone would answer. Certainly not like this. Your father saved my grandmother's colony, Bo-Ra said. She survived to have children who had me. I exist because of Captain Daewon. How could we not answer? The Kragath learned of the human fleet's arrival within hours. Warlord Kethvar, commanding the Kragath forces in the sector, couldn't believe the reports at first. The humans sent 300 ships? For the Valorn? That makes no tactical sense. His second-in-command, a battle-scarred veteran, studied the data. The humans are positioning themselves between us and the Valorn fleet. They're creating a defensive screen. Then they're fools. We outnumber them. We have superior firepower. Send them a message. Tell them to stand down or we'll destroy them along with the Valorn. The message that went out was simple and threatening. Kethvar made it clear that this was Kragath space now. The Valorn had refused tribute, and anyone who interfered would be treated as an enemy. On the bridge of the Remembrance, Captain Jae-sung read the message aloud to Admiral Bo-Ra. When he finished, Bo-Ra was quiet for a long moment. Admiral? Jae-sung prompted. How should we respond? Send this, Bo-Ra said. Come and try. Those 3 words spread through both fleets instantly. The Kragath saw it as an insult from an upstart species. The humans saw it as a declaration of intent. They would not be moved. In her office, Ji-won worked frantically on battle plans. As a military strategist, she'd been pulled into the operation despite her civilian status. She studied every recorded Kragath engagement, looking for patterns, weaknesses, anything that could give humanity an edge. They rely on overwhelming force, she explained to the assembled fleet commanders via holographic conference. They expect enemies to break formation when faced with superior numbers. They've never fought anyone who stood their ground. Are you suggesting we trade ships with them? One captain asked. I'm suggesting we make them pay for every meter of space, Ji-won replied. The Kragath have never faced an enemy willing to sacrifice for others. They fight for conquest. We fight for something they don't understand. Loyalty. That's our advantage. Admiral Bo-Ra listened to the briefing and then made her decision. We're not leaving. We're not backing down. The Valorn are under human protection now. Make sure every ship in the fleet understands. We hold the line no matter what. On the Valorn ships, families gathered together, watching the human fleet position itself between them and danger. Children asked their parents why the humans would do this. Why would strangers risk death for them? Sunho answered his own daughter's question with the truth. 80 years ago, we saved them. We could have passed by. We could have said it wasn't our problem. But my grandfather, your great-grandfather Daewon, decided that some things matter more than convenience. Now the humans are teaching us that some debts echo across generations. They remember what we did when we were strangers. Now they're paying it back when we need it most. The Kragath fleet began to move. 500 ships, weapons-powered, advancing on the human defensive line. 300 human ships held their position, engines cold, waiting. The galaxy held its breath. Hyunwoo stood in his small research station office, surrounded by holographic displays showing the locations of every known Velorn ship in the galaxy. There were 43 of them now. 43 ships carrying a species that was slowly dying out, scattered across thousands of light years. He updated each position carefully, tracking movements, logging the births and deaths that happened aboard those wandering vessels. "You're doing it again," Jiwon said from the doorway. His partner leaned against the frame holding 2 cups of coffee, watching him with that mixture of love and exasperation that Hyunwoo had come to recognize over their 10 years together. "It's 3 in the morning. The Velorn don't sleep on our schedule," Hyunwoo replied, taking one of the cups gratefully. "The Silver Path just changed course. They're heading toward the outer reaches. That's unusual. Everything they do is unusual. They're nomads. They wander." Jiwon sat down, pulling up a chair. "When are you going to accept that most people have moved on? The New Horizon rescue was 80 years ago. Nobody cares anymore. I care. And humanity should care," Hyunwoo said, his voice sharp. "The Velorn saved 3,000 people when they had no reason to. Captain Daewon risked his entire ship, his entire crew. My great-grandmother Hana promised we'd never forget. But look around. Where are the remembrance ceremonies? Where are the cultural exchanges? We've abandoned them." Jiwon sighed. She'd had this conversation with him 100 times. "We haven't abandoned them. The Velorn chose to remain nomadic. They declined our offers of permanent embassy status. They trade with us occasionally, sure, but they keep to themselves. What do you want humanity to do? Remember. Just remember what they did for us." Across human space, the story of New Horizon had become something else over 8 decades. It was taught in schools, yes, but more as a historical footnote than a living debt. A Velorn's mercy was a saying people used when someone helped unexpectedly, but it had lost its weight. It was just words now. Humans had expanded during those 80 years. From a handful of colonies, they'd grown to control 47 settled worlds and another 100 outposts. They'd become a recognized power in galactic politics, not dominant but respectable. They had trade agreements, defense pacts, and all the normal machinery of an interstellar civilization. The Velorn, meanwhile, had diminished. Their birth rate was low. Their ships were old. They made their living as traders and scholars, traveling between stars, never staying anywhere long. Most species viewed them as harmless relics, a people whose time had passed. Admiral Bo-Ra sat in her office on the military station above Earth, reviewing fleet deployments. She was young for an admiral at 46, but she'd proven herself during the border conflicts with the aggressive Kragath Empire. The Kragath were the opposite of the Velorn in every way, brutal, expansionist, believing that strength gave them the right to take whatever they wanted. "Admiral, we're getting reports of increased Kragath activity near the outer reaches," her aide said, displaying a star map. "Several independent ships have gone missing. Pirates, probably." Bo-Ra studied the map. The outer reaches were mostly empty space, a buffer zone between Kragath territory and the rest of civilized space. No one lived there by choice. "Keep monitoring. If they start pushing into protected space, we'll need to respond." "Yes, ma'am." Also, that historian sent another message. "Hyunwoo. He's asking for patrol ships to do wellness checks on Velorn vessels in that sector." Bo-Ra rubbed her temples. She'd heard of Hyunwoo. Most military officers had. The obsessive researcher who dedicated his life to tracking aliens who didn't want to be tracked. Tell him we don't have the resources to chase nomads around empty space. But something about the request nagged at her. She pulled up the data Hyunwoo had sent. Multiple Velorn ships were converging on the outer reaches. That was unusual. The Velorn typically spread out to avoid draining resources in any one area. Why would they cluster? In the depths of space, the Velorn were asking themselves the same question. They gathered not by choice but by necessity. The Kragath had begun hunting them. It started small. A single Velorn ship attacked, its cargo stolen, its crew left stranded. Then another. Then a third ship simply vanished, distress calls cut short. The Velorn, who had no weapons beyond basic defensive systems, had no way to fight back. So they did what their species had always done, they ran. They gathered together for safety in numbers. Captain Sun-Ho, now leading his own vessel distant shore, called an emergency council with the other Velorn ships. He was older now, in his 50s, but he remembered New Horizon. He'd been there as a young man, helping repair the Wandering Dawn after his father's desperate gamble to save the human colony. "The Kragath are targeting us systematically," one captain reported via hologram. "They attack our ships, take what they want, and leave us crippled. 3 ships destroyed, hundreds dead. We should flee deeper into uncharted space," another captain suggested. "Put distance between us and them." "And then what?" Sun-Ho asked. "Run forever? We've been running for generations. Maybe it's time to ask for help." "From whom?" "The Galactic Coalition. They've never lifted a finger to protect minor species. We're beneath their notice." Sun-Ho pulled up an image, a statue of his father, standing in the central square of Hana's Promise, the city named after the human colony director. "The humans remember," he said quietly. "Every ship that's passed through human space reports the same thing. They tell stories about my father, about the shield, about the debt they still believe they owe. That was 80 years ago. Humans are not known for long memories. They're young and impulsive." "Then let's test if that's true," Sun-Ho replied. "What do we have to lose?" The message the Velorn sent was simple. It wasn't a demand or even really a request. It was just a statement of fact transmitted on frequencies the humans monitored. "The Kragath come. We have nowhere to run. If the debt still stands, we ask for shelter." Hyunwoo received it first. His monitoring systems were designed to catch any Velorn communication, and this one made his blood run cold. He read it 3 times, then immediately tried calling Admiral Bora. When her office gave him the runaround, he did something unprecedented. He bypassed every official channel and broadcast the message himself across every human network he could access. Military frequencies, civilian news feeds, colonial communication systems. He attached a single line of his own. "They saved us. Now they need us. Who stands with the Velorn?" The response shocked even Hyunwoo. Within 1 hour, every major human colony's legislature had convened emergency sessions. Within 3 hours, civilian protests had erupted demanding military action. Within 6 hours, Earth's parliament had voted unanimously to authorize force. Within 12 hours, Admiral Bora had her orders. Mobilize everything. Jiwon found Hyunwoo in his office, watching the news feeds with tears running down his face. "You did it," she said softly. "They listened. They remembered," he whispered. After 80 years, they remembered. Across human space, the mobilization began. Fleet ships were recalled from patrols. Reserve vessels were activated. Civilian ships volunteered to be retrofitted with weapons. Veterans came out of retirement demanding to be allowed to serve. Factories shifted to military production, and everywhere on every human world, people told the story of New Horizon. They told it to their children. They told it to each other. They told it to the galaxy through their actions. The Velorn had saved humanity when they'd asked for nothing in return. Now humanity would answer, not because treaties required it, not because there was strategic advantage, but because 80 years ago a promise had been made, and humans, as the galaxy was about to learn, never forgot their promises. The rescue ships found Admiral Bora floating in an escape pod 3 hours after the battle ended. She was unconscious, badly burned, barely alive. The medical team rushed her to the nearest hospital ship, where human and Velorn doctors worked together to save her life. She would survive, though it would take months of recovery. Captain Jae-sung took command of what remained of the human fleet. 47 ships destroyed, another 68 damaged, 3,217 humans dead. It was the worst single battle in human history, and across human space they celebrated. Not because of the deaths, those hurt deeply, and memorials were already being planned, but because humanity had proven something that day. They'd shown that their word meant something, that a promise made 80 years ago still mattered, that they would bleed for those who'd once bled for them. On the Velorn ships, there were no celebrations, only grief and confusion and a debt that felt impossible to repay. Sun-Ho stood in his quarters, staring at a picture of his father. Captain Daewon had died 20 years ago, peacefully in his sleep. He'd lived to be old, to see his grandchildren, to pass his ship to Sun-Ho, but he'd never forgotten New Horizon. He'd told the story until his last days. "They came for us, Father," Sun-Ho whispered to the picture, "just like you always believed they would. And they paid in blood for what you gave them for free." A message came through, All Valorn captains were requested to gather on the distant shore for an emergency council. Sun Ho was hosting because his ship was the largest remaining Valorn vessel. 43 captains appeared via hologram, representing every Valorn family in the galaxy. They stood in Sun Ho's cargo bay, which had been converted into a meeting space. These were all that remained of their species, less than 8,000 souls total spread across aging ships. "We must discuss our future," the eldest captain, Mei Lin, began. "The humans saved us. They lost thousands doing it. We cannot simply thank them and move on. This debt is beyond anything our people have ever owed." "They don't see it as a debt," Sun Ho said. "I spoke with Captain Jae-sung. He told me they were honoring a promise his people made. He said they'd do it again without hesitation." "That makes it worse," another captain said. "They sacrificed without expecting anything in return. How do we live with that?" The council debated for hours. Some suggested offering all their technology to humanity. Others proposed permanent service as allies. A few thought they should simply leave, disappear into uncharted space so the humans wouldn't feel obligated to protect them anymore. Finally, Sun Ho spoke the truth that none of them wanted to say aloud. "We're dying. Our species is dying. We have 8,000 people spread across 43 ships. Our birth rate is low. Our ships are old. Even without the Kragath, we have maybe 2 generations left before we fade away completely. That's the real problem we're not discussing." The silence was heavy. "What are you suggesting?" Malin asked. "I'm suggesting we stop running. For 1,000 years we've been nomads because we lost our homeworld. But maybe it's time to find a new home. The humans have offered us sanctuary. They have 47 colonies, and from what I've learned, most of them have room. What if we accepted? What if we stopped wandering and started building again? Become part of human space?" A younger captain asked. "Give up our independence?" "We lost our independence the day the Kragath decided we were prey," Sun Ho replied. "Now we have a choice. We can drift until we disappear, or we can accept help from the only species that's ever shown us kindness without wanting something in return." The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was clear. 38 of 43 captains agreed. The Valorn would accept humanity's offer of a permanent home. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Coalition convened another emergency session. This time, Ambassador Kyung-mi entered the chamber to applause from several species delegations. The humans had done the impossible, defended a weaker species against a stronger aggressor, and won. The Coalition wishes to formally recognize humanity's actions in the Valorn crisis, the Council speaker announced. "We are prepared to offer Earth a permanent seat on the Coalition Council, with full voting rights and status as a major galactic power." Kyung-mi bowed respectfully. "Humanity accepts this honor. But I want to be clear about something. We didn't fight for political advantage. We didn't calculate whether it was strategically wise. We fought because it was right. Because 80 years ago, the Valorn saved us when they didn't have to. If the Coalition wants humanity's participation, understand that we will always honor our debts, even when it's inconvenient." "Your species' loyalty is noted and respected," the speaker said. The Kragath representative was notably absent. What remained of their forces had retreated deep into their own territory. The galactic community was quietly discussing sanctions. Several species that had paid tribute to avoid Kragath aggression were now refusing, emboldened by humanity's example. On New Horizon, the colony where it all began, they held a massive ceremony. The statue of Captain Daewon was moved to a new memorial plaza, surrounded by 47 smaller statues, one for each human ship lost in the battle. At the center, they placed a new inscription. "Here stands proof that mercy given freely returns 1,000-fold. Captain Daewon saved us when we were strangers. 80 years later, humanity repaid that gift. May all species learn that kindness is never wasted, and debts of honor echo across generations." Hyunwoo stood at the ceremony, Jiwon beside him, watching thousands of people gather. His obsession had been vindicated. His dedication to remembering had helped mobilize an entire species. "You were right," Jiwon said quietly. "All these years you were right to remember." "We were all right to remember," Hyunwoo replied. "Every human who heard the story and thought it mattered. Every parent who told their children. Every school that taught it. We remembered together." Su Jin, the daughter of Captain Won Shik, attended the ceremony wearing her father's uniform jacket. She carried his logbook, recovered from the wreckage of the Hana's promise. She'd read his final entry 100 times. If we must pay a debt with our lives, let it be for those who taught us mercy when we had nothing to give. The Valorn saved us once. Today we save them. This is what it means to be human. The Valorn chose to settle on a world in human space called Haven. It was a beautiful planet, mostly ocean with scattered island continents, similar to their lost home world. The humans helped them build settlements, shared technology, offered support with no strings attached. Within a year, the first joint human-Valorn research station was operational. The Valorn's shield technology, combined with human adaptability, led to breakthroughs neither species could have achieved alone. Trade flourished. Cultural exchanges began. Valorn children learned human languages while human children learned Valorn history. Sunho stood on a beach on Haven, watching the sunset over an alien ocean that felt like home. His daughter played in the waves nearby, laughing with human children from the nearby settlement. This was what his father had died hoping for, not just survival but a future. A human approached. It was Admiral Bora, recovered now, walking with a slight limp that doctors said would eventually heal. She'd become something of a hero across human space, though she deflected the attention whenever possible. Beautiful world, Bora said, standing beside Sunho. It is. Thank you for helping us find it. Thank your father. He started this by being willing to risk everything for strangers. Sunho smiled. He would have liked you. He always believed the best of people. Even when they disappointed him, he kept believing. The galaxy needs more people like that, Bora said. People who believe kindness matters. Who think mercy is strength, not weakness. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the children play. Human and Valorn, running together on the beach, not caring about the difference in their skin or the shape of their faces. Just children being children. This is what we fought for, Bora said finally. Not territory. Not resources. This, the chance for two species to build something together. To show the galaxy that there's another way. Sunho nodded. My father gave humanity a gift 80 years ago. You returned it 1,000 times over. But I think the real gift is this. Proving that the galaxy doesn't have to be a place where the strong prey on the weak. That there can be species who choose to protect instead of conquer. We learned that from you, Bora replied. And we learned endurance from you. Loyalty. The courage to stand when running would be easier. A year later, they completed construction of a massive station orbiting Haven, jointly built and operated by both species. They named it simply the Bridge. It served as a hub for trade, research, and cultural exchange, not just between humans and Valorn, but open to all species. A plaque at the entrance told the story. How Captain Day One saved New Horizon. How humanity remembered. How a promise made by strangers became an alliance that changed the galaxy. The final line read, mankind never overlooks a favor, and their payback can shake worlds. Across the galaxy, species took notice. The story of the Valorn rescue spread. Some saw it as foolish sentimentality. Why die for aliens? But others saw something different. They saw proof that loyalty mattered, that promises could be kept, that the strong didn't always have to exploit the weak. The Kregath Empire quietly collapsed over the next decade, to